welcome to Painting with Some Guy. I'm Some Guy. Today we're going to look at 3 different kinds of paintings. This is the first kind, just your blank canvas. So we're going to do it in stages. We're going to start with stage 1, which is obviously your blank canvas. And what I like to do, I like to stain it one color. So to get rid of that bright white color, I find it throws off my perception of how my lights and darks look. So I like to start with a mid-tone. And the mid-tone we're going to be mixing burnt umber and burnt sienna. We're going to mix that together. We're going to mix it up with, I am using mineral spirits. You can use turpentine or any other kind of paint thinner. I use this stuff because it doesn't stink up my place. My place already stinks enough. I don't need it to smell like chemicals. So we're gonna stain this up, and if you are laser focused like me, you're hyper focused, this should only take a few minutes. As I said, we're gonna use mineral spirits. We're gonna water this right down, so we're gonna use a lot of this stuff. So don't really worry, just kind of pour it on there. Okay, so we got lots. Whoa. All right, so let's get this out of the way. Whoa. Okay, so once we have our mineral spirit on there, let's just mix this right up together. That's it. There you go. So you see how it's really watery. We want it to be watery. We want it to be thin. So we're gonna start spreading it on there. Just like that. We don't need to worry about the direction because we're just staining it one color. All right, so as you can see, we are covering a lot of ground with this big mama paintbrush. I think that must be a 2-inch flat. I'm not exactly sure. Got it in the bargain bin at Walmart. So this won't take a very long time. As you can see, we're covering a lot of ground, so just focus on it. We'll cover this and then we'll be done. We'll put this away, put it under our bed. Make sure to move all your empties out of the way because we're gonna want it to dry before we add any more paint onto it. So just stay focused. All right, so as you can see, we got a good nice mid-tone here. It's kind of a reddish brown. So what we're gonna do with this, gonna set it aside. We're gonna put it somewhere. We're gonna let it dry for a few days, and we'll move on to our next painting. Okay, now that other painting's drying, we'll start working on this one that I've already prepared. So I have stained it already, and I also did a bit of a sketch on there as well to kind of give me an idea of where I want to take this. So we're gonna start by the background. I always like to start on the background and work my way forward. That way you can kind of layer on top of the background and you're not gonna get any weird crossover of paint. So we're gonna start with a very limited palette. You'll see the colors go by on the screen. The reason for this is I want to add the colors when this is actually dry. So I wanna focus on like contrast and kind of the composition of this painting first. And then I'll start adding more colors. Stagats, you really fucked up the sound on this part, didn't you, you big dummy? So let's just get started right now. Okay. And I want to use a big brush at first. What I like to do is I like to start with really big brushes, and then as the painting goes on and I'm adding more details, then use more, tinier brushes. But with this phase in my painting, like we want to just cover a lot of ground right now. So you're gonna see that I'm kind of just spreading it around, like not really worried too much about detail right now. So the trick to having your colors recede into the background is to use less saturated colors. So you want it to be mixed. The more you mix paint, the less saturated it becomes. So what I like to do is mix with white, and those colors, they lose their vibrance. And we want our background, our sky, to have less vibrance than our foreground. Basically what I'm doing here is I am focusing mainly on my lights and darks. So you'll see me kind of adding white, and then I'll go to dark, and I'll kind of switch back and forth. And I'm not really focusing on any particular color right now, because color will be added later. Right now I just want to focus on my lights and darks. So in your background, you don't want to have a whole lot of detail, because the way the eye works is the further back something is, the less detail you're seeing. So you want the detail to be in the foreground. So I'm kind of just using broad brush strokes in the background and in my foreground. So the lady here, I want to add detail. With that tree, I want to add detail. But in the background, I don't want a whole lot of detail. So I'm using broad brush strokes. I don't like to focus on one particular area too much, because I find if I do that, I am putting too much detail into one part. So I want to spread out my focus all over. I want to have kind of a balance. So I want everything to kind of to flow together. So I don't want to focus on one part too much. So you'll see me bouncing around all over the painting. So I don't want to add too much detail right now. I just want to add kind of where my lights and darks are gonna go, because later on, when the painting is dry, I'm going to add another layer, more layers on top, and that's when I'm gonna start kind of adding more detail. But right now, I just want to know where my darks are coming from, where my lights are coming from. I'm always, in the back of my mind, I'm always thinking of where my light is coming from. And with everything I paint in the composition, I keep in mind where that light is coming from. So I guess you could say the sun is kind of hitting everything at the same way. So I want the lights to reflect that, and I want the darks and the shadows to reflect that as well. The foreground is not going to have a whole lot of detail right now. I just want to kind of get an idea of where I want to put things. I like to focus on the background and come forward with more detail. So the foreground is actually the last thing I do in a painting. So you'll kind of see that the foreground, it's not really super detailed right now. I don't want to have really sharp brush strokes, so you'll see me using that same 2-inch flat once in a while, and I'll kind of spread that paint around. I don't want any sharp corners or a whole lot of lines yet. Like I just want I guess the general map of where I want to put things. So you'll notice that the closer I come into the foreground, the more darks I'm using. Like you see those mountains or whatever you want to call them in the background, they don't have a lot of dark colors. Is because the closer you are to the foreground, the higher contrast you have. So the brighter lights, the brighter whites, and the darker darks, the darker blacks that you'll have. And that's another trick, like another illusion kind of thing. Like you want the background to recede into the background, and you want the foreground to come forward, and it's an illusion of depth. So right here you can see that I added a bit of white to that furthest mountain in the background, and what that is doing, it's adding atmosphere to the painting. So it's making it look like it's receding far enough where there's like the light is being diffused almost, and that's another trick to have something recede into the background. I don't want to add too much detail to her face right now. Like I said, I'm just laying the blueprint for what I want to add later when the painting is actually dry. So I've added a little bit of yellow to that white into the foreground because it brightens the white in a big way, and it brings those the closest thing to the viewer's eye. It brings them forward, and it goes back to that illusion of depth, and that's what we're trying to do, and that's why I'm adding these darks. You can see you don't see those darks in the background. You're only seeing those darks in the foreground. Another thing that I should mention is this is all done with mineral spirits. So this is all paint thinner. So I'm not using any oil medium right now. The only oil is actually in the paint right now. So, and the reason why that I'm doing that is because you want your first layers to be thin. And there's this rule in oil painting called fat over lean. And what that means is you want to have the thinnest paint on first, and then you want to have oily paint on top because of the way paint dries. If the undercoat is drying faster than the coat that's put on top of it, that coat on top will start to crack. So I want to use fast drying paint first. So I'm diluting this paint with paint thinner, and it dries faster. And then afterwards, I'll add more oil to my paint. So I'll use a different medium, but right now I'm just using paint thinner because one, it dries faster, and it makes it more liquidy, like almost like you're using a water base, and it can spread easier. But you always want to follow that fat over lean rule. So more oily on top of thin paint. Otherwise, you can wreck a painting. And I've done it before. I've wrecked a painting because I didn't follow that rule. Okay, so that's probably good for now. We'll continue this next episode. We'll focus more on adding color and a bit more detail to our composition. In the meantime, we'll just let this dry, and thank you for joining me with painting with some... Oh, shit. Forgot that I said we would do 3 paintings. So we will work on this one right now. As you can see, it's almost finished, so let's just jump right in. Okay. And finished. Thank you for joining me this month with Painting with Some Guy, and oh man, is it the 10th already? Hello? Hey man, what's up? Yeah, I've been meaning to call you. Hey, look, so I'm gonna need to borrow a bit more money. No, 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 no. I'm still gonna pay you back what I owe you. Don't worry about that. Um, they cut my power off, so I'm gonna need a little bit more money. But hey, I'm doing this like this painting show. Someone's gonna buy a painting or something. Like maybe I'll sell some T-shirts. But I will get your money back. Don't worry. But I'm gonna need a little bit more. And don't worry. No. You don't have to send the big guy over here. No. Don't worry. I got you, man. I got you. Don't worry. Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. Don't worry about it. I'll pay you back. Like I said, I'm doing this thing. Money's coming my way. I can tell you that. It's coming my way. Don't worry about it.